gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go.
2.
Yeah, bells and bells. What's going on, baby? We're back with you guys on a freaking Wednesday. Got Kane's number one fan. I got Joey. I got JD with me on a Wednesday. Good evening to you, gentlemen.
What's going on?
What's cooking?
Oh, hey man, hey, we're gonna if the backstage stuff was any indication of the fun we're gonna have tonight. boy, you guys are in for a freaking treat, man. Oh, so we got our good friend with us. We're gonna introduce him momentarily. But I think my tag team partners decided to bring out a couple of belts. I'm gonna go to man up first. He's in his Texas bag right about now. His Houston Texans are in the next round of the NFL playoffs, and so is my Detroit Lions as well. I'm going to throw that in there. We're going to see what happens this coming week as well. There, man up. Joey has his IWGP heavyweight title, and that's what we're talking about tonight, right, Joey?
I know somebody didn't give Kane's number one fan the memo. We talking about Japan tonight, not Texas. All right.
Wait a minute. Wait. Texas isn't in Japan?
Hey, you ain't get that memo.
Is there a Tokyo, Texas?
It might be.
There's a Paris, Texas.
There's a Paris, Texas.
There's
a Detroit, Texas.
There's also a London, Texas.
I'm just saying you can hit
Germany,
all those in one day if you plan it right. I'm just saying. I'm just playing. But yeah, we're gonna have a good time today. This is part 2 of our Japan show. We did the last one last year with our guest. He's a great friend of the show. Admin over at Champions Belt Club, the official grandpa of the bout hobby, Mr. Ben Walker. So we're gonna bring him on at this time. Yeah, bringing on our good friend Ben Grandpa Walker. Ben, good evening to you, bro.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Generic jobber. I saw it in the comments. I was gonna go there because I feel you on that one. I felt that one. Awesome, good stuff. But Ben, welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it, man. You guys do a fantastic show. Very entertaining, informational, just great all around. And I'm honored to be a guest on your show tonight.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's see who we got in the house tonight. We got Old Head in the house. What's good?
He's watching on YouTube. Shout out to Old Head watching on YouTube.
He's finally watching us on YouTube, bro.
Nesha saying too sweet. What's up, Nesha? See some belts they knew. No, I think these are
old belts. I see Ben has a belt on the show. We're gonna get to that in a minute. Yeah, generic jobber. Konnichiwa. I love it.
Probably so.
Right.
I think that's about Texas. Let's get it on. Nesha.
Awesome. And of course, Man Cave Sports TV. Shout out to Man Cave Sports. If you don't subscribe to them, it's another awesome channel on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Ben, you had a belt on your show. What you got?
This is my custom-made Peruzu belt.
Oh man.
Really?
Zoom
in on that one, JD.
I am. I'm just getting over there now. There we go.
So this is custom, not TV accurate, correct?
Correct. Not no TV access. Sorry to disappoint you. So
I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed.
New Japan on there.
Might just have to bootleg that belt.
You got that All Japan.
Okay.
There we go. And Wrestling Noah. Nice.
Okay.
Man, that's
tight.
Very
good. That's very nice.
And this, I think, JD, I think this is a good segue into This segue with the belt that Ben this custom belt here, and the promotions that he that are represented on that belt. This is a good segue to in regards to like the promotions that are active right now, right?
Yeah, so I did up a little graphic here just for people that are sort of a little uninitiated in
Sure,
Japanese
absolutely.
wrestling. So this is sort of what we got going on over there currently in Japanese wrestling.
Okay.
The top half of the graphic you see there are what they would refer to as the major Japanese promotions. Most of those are tied to TV deals, specifically. And then they have what they call the minor promotions over there, which would be the equivalent of the indie sort of scene over here in North America.
Okay.
What's really interesting when I was doing some research on this is that many popular companies right now are actually owned by the same mother company or the same umbrella company. So Wrestling Noah, DDT, and the Yoshi promotion. Can't think of the name of it now. That's terrible. Tokyo. Yep, exactly. They're all owned by Cyber Agent, or Cyber Fight is the company, and they also own one of the minor promotions as well, which is Gone Bear. Here down in the middle.
Okay.
Which is barely legible in English, of course, but it's Gone Bear is the promotion. So, and then actually, New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom are owned by the same company as well. So they're the same promotion, which is why you're seeing quite a bit of shared talent especially in the women's division, obviously. So.
Yeah. Good deal.
I mean, they even created the New Japan Women's title.
They did,
or the IWGP Women's Championship, and it's defended in Stardom.
And I've actually listed these promotions in the major top half of it. These are actually listed in terms of popularity in Japan. Popularity being based on gate sales and overall net profit through the year. So in Japan right now, Dragon Gate is actually in second place with overall gate sales in 2023. So New Japan, of course, is still on top and by a wide margin, pretty significant margin, in the same way that WWE is in equivalent to the U.S. market. New Japan is that now. Noah and DDT are actually pretty close, neck and neck in terms of overall popularity, and All Japan, unfortunately, is pretty far back in the pack right now. So.
Good deal. Caleb pointing out as well in the comments. Appreciate that, Caleb.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you had a graphic or something because we're bells and belts, and we
are bells and belts. So we
love a good belt.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, we love a good bout.
Damn.
I think
Damn.
No, yeah, put that in quotes. Say it again. Put it in quotes.
Bout. So we definitely appreciate it. Now we have this the top belt of the promotions there.
So these are all the top singles titles in the various promotions on the previous graphics. So of course you've got the V5 version of the IWGP World title. This is Stardom's championship, number one singles championship. That's Dragon Gate's number one title. That had a really interesting. I didn't know the backstory to that or the way that it works. It's really interesting, actually. Might be worth talking about that today.
Okay.
That's of course Noah's GHC title. We've got the DDT championship there. Princess of Princesses for Tokyo. We've got the 2013 version of the All Japan Pro Wrestling Triple Crown there. And then this is one of the minor promotions. It's a deathmatch heavyweight champion from Big Japan Pro Wrestling. Gone Bear in the bottom left corner. And then that's actually Takamichi Noku's promotion, Active Advanced Pro Wrestling, and that's their heavyweight championship. So
okay, all right, putting everybody on the spot. Out of the belts shown, which one y'all like the most? Man up.
Go to me last. I don't know. I got to look at this one.
It's too easy. Too easy. I'll go to our guest. I'll go to our guest last. How about that, Joey?
I'm going to go with the Global Honor Crown Heavyweight title out of those. It's to me, I like the classic look of that with the dual plated belt and everything. I've always liked that belt.
Okay, JD.
I've always had a soft spot for the Triple Crown, the 2013.
Okay.
I've always liked that. I mean, I love the original 3 belts, but I love all 4 of them together, actually. But actually, in my research and doing this, I've actually grown quite fond of the Dragon Gate belt.
Yeah, and that's where I'm leaning. Whatnot. Then I'm gonna turn it over to Ben. I wonder if a maker could make something similar to that.
Yeah, it had to be the All Japan Triple Crown for me.
Of course, absolutely.
It's 3 belts in one. For the people that don't know, the center plate is the PWF.
Mm-hmm.
The side plate is United National and
Right.
the International, NWA International. That's where the 3 center plates. It's a great design combined together to represent one championship instead of them carrying 3 titles. But I was used to them carrying the 3 titles too. It was, especially how certain wrestlers would wear them or display them or show they're part of the championship. So
Absolutely.
And it's based off of the Luthez World Heavyweight Championship too. You could tell by the design and the PWF design and everything. So it still lends that, which you can also see in the same not too long after time period for the Ring of Honor World Championship shares that same main plate design.
I like that. Hey Ben, do you have that Triple Crown in your collection? No.
I think that's
Which one?
yes.
You have this design in your collection? Oh, never. Yeah, I gotta ask the question because
I think that was a yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I gotta ask these questions.
It would probably be quicker to ask him which Japanese belt he doesn't have.
That was a good
Does he
one.
have the Iron Man heavy metalweight DD?
You better have that one in your collection.
I do
He
have.
might
the
have actually
DDT.
won that one.
I do have the DDT.
Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, I have it. But I just my Triple Crown, I just sold it.
Okay.
The little backstory is I bought it from someone 4 years ago.
Okay.
And he messaged me about a month ago and he asked me would I be willing to sell it back to him.
Wow.
So it's going back home to the original owner.
Okay.
Oh, very
And
nice.
I've already ordered a new one. Big time belts.
Okay.
I already ordered a new one in process. So our guy over there, Big Time Belts, he Muhammad Zubair, great maker. He is in the process of making me a new one.
Nice.
Nice.
Shout out to Zubair. Yeah.
Shout out
Really
to Zubair,
interesting.
big-time
I was going to
belts.
say too, since we were talking about it, the really interesting thing about the Dragon Gate belt is the challengers earn keys in their various sort of lead up matches to championship challenge. In the back of the padlock on the belt is the current champion's name and information and when they won the belt and how long they've had it. You'll see a little bar there in the bottom underneath the lock plate there. If the challenger beats the champion, they get to use the key, open the belt, remove the placard from inside of it and put their own placard inside of it and then go on to challenge or go on to defend the belt. If they lose, the current champion gets to keep their key and hang it off the belt. So some of the longer reigning champions would have had multiple keys hanging off the belt over the course of their championship run. So very unique.
That just
very,
sounds
very
cool,
unique.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, take it in a different direction. People like different.
Super cool.
I remember Pac having it when AEW was starting up. He brought that belt with him to the shows and stuff like that in the press conferences. He had it with him at the time.
Yeah. Really interesting. I thought maybe we'd just check in with a few folks here. We got quite a few
Sure,
comments.
absolutely.
Caleb says Noah, DDT, and Khalid are all owned by Cyber. Yep, he got ahead of me on that. Caleb said, "Don't forget other deathmatch promotions like Freedoms." No, brother, we didn't forget them. I just can't fit them all in one graphic.
Exactly.
Right.
It was already hard to read.
Yeah, don't forget the AWA title for 0-1. Absolutely, that's a great one. For me, with this image, it's either the Triple Crown GHC belt or that Dragon Gate title.
Okay. Not a lot of love for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. I see. Okay.
No, that has not been a popular title. Although I did see that they recently released the official replica. New Japan did recently, and man, up close, pretty good looking belt actually. So I don't know. If you got a 4 or 5 grand, 4 or 5 grand in your pocket.
Don't challenge me to get that belt. Stardom's got a lot of belts, so you could take your pick of them.
Exactly.
But don't think I wouldn't have one of those in my
Mark
collection.
Maggard in the
Mark
house.
Maggard making an appearance.
Hey,
What's
Mark.
going on, Mark?
Ben has the best one. Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Good stuff. I guess diving in. Last time we had the Japan show, we talked a little bit more about history and whatnot. And I guess we can talk more about the current status of Japanese wrestling, JD.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought maybe it might be a good idea just before we get into that, just for folks at home that don't necessarily watch it on the regular or had a lot of experience watching Japanese wrestling, maybe talking a little bit about the difference between strong style and King's Road style. Yeah, because the majority.
That's a good one. I in preparation for the show, you show that graphic. I have never heard of. I've heard of strong style, but I never heard of King's Road style. And and I'm sitting back and taking this in as to that explanation, guys.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure last time I wasn't on the panel last time, but I'm pretty sure that you guys got into sort of the general history of Japanese wrestling with Ben. Talked about how Inoki and Baba both sort of split from the main promotion in Japan. That Ridoko, what's his name again? Ridoka-san, or I'm losing it. Hang on a sec here. I'll bring it up.
You're right, though. I know where you're going with this.
You know where I'm going with it. I just can't think of the name now. Yeah, there we go. Riki Dozen. Sorry, he was sort of the original promoter in Japan back in the day, just after the war, and he had actually taught and brought Inoki and Baba into wrestling originally, and he got killed, unfortunately, by mobsters in Japan.
Wow.
And so when he died, they both sort of split and went their own way, created their own sort of brand of wrestling. But they weren't just creating brands; they were also creating different philosophies in terms of how you book and how you sort of work in the ring. And so I think it would be interesting maybe to talk a little bit about just the differences in the philosophy of that, because there are certain promotions that book in those styles specifically. So specifically, obviously, New Japan Pro Wrestling was Inoki's vision, and that's where we got the idea of strong style that he built. Okay. And then obviously Baba built All Japan Pro Wrestling, and he came up with the concept of King's Road style. And then other promotions that exist now obviously carry that forward. So there's been heavy influence in the North American market with the strong style, obviously, and obviously it continues in New Japan as well. In the King's Road style carried over into All Japan, but it also then followed the wrestlers over to Noah, obviously, and some of those promotions have been influenced by that style as well. So still heavily involved over there. What is strong style? So strong style is an approach of wrestling that is based on combat sport, specifically influenced strongly by the styles of catch wrestlers like Lou Thesz, Karl Gotch, Billy Robinson specifically. So they had a lot of influences from shoot wrestlers and shoot fighters early on in the early days of New Japan. So there was a lot of kicks, a lot of strikes from martial arts disciplines, and then a strong emphasis on submission wrestling. Okay. So a lot of holds, a lot of submission stuff like that, which you would expect obviously from catch as catch can wrestlers and that style. And actually, you can draw a line really interestingly from New Japan right into MMA and mixed martial arts, because a lot of the roots and foundations of what became Shoto and what became Pancrase and what then became Pride and then became the UFC all sort of stemmed out of a lot of the early wrestlers in New Japan, like Sayama and Funaki and Suzuki, and a lot of those guys all sort of cut their teeth in New Japan as wrestlers, but they also all had strong martial arts backgrounds before they even got into pro wrestling. So that's kind of an interesting difference. Kings Road style is based more on a principle I think they call Odo, I think is what I researched, and it's adopted from a more narrative style is what they're saying. So what they mean is it is heavily influenced by the American professional wrestling sort of style.
Okay.
Submission wrestling was almost non-existent in that Baba hated submission, so he would encourage wrestlers to have decisive finishes. So a lot of striking, a lot of head stuff, a lot of head striking, a lot of head damage, and pretty explosive sort of physical matches. It really became sort of escalated pretty severely in the 90s, which is my favorite time period. It escalated pretty severely in the 90s, and there was a lot of really significant injuries and problems with people being on the sidelines. Misawa, of course, Mitsuharu, who was one of the better known wrestlers in the promotion, unfortunately lost his life in the ring due to that, and it's directly attributed to that sort of aggressive, sort of physical style of wrestling that he did in that time period. So it's a really interesting sort of different approach to the way that they not only wrestled in the ring, but specifically booked people in the ring.
Absolutely. And Ben, I'm gonna open up the floor to you in regards to the two those two styles, the Kings Road and strong style. From a Japanese fan perspective, we say that they would tend to lean more towards one side than the other, or
to be honest with you, I was more of a All Japan fan growing up. Because I saw the exposure to it growing up where I did, and they would show All Japan Pro Wrestling. So I was probably more of a Kings Road, but I accepted strong style too. I'm just a all out general fan of Japanese wrestling, but I do know the two different disciplines and how they did grow. They grew from Japan Pro Wrestling on to New Japan, All Japan. Went their separate ways, but they were always still kind of linked together from Rikidozan. And when you seen the strong style, it was hard hitting, man. You had guys like Bruiser Brody and the Road Warriors and Stan Hansen.
Man, that's some stiff looking stuff, man. Those are the types of hits that I'm gonna give to Man Up when I see him on site. Like literally, I'm gonna twist my head.
Emotional damage.
A spinning back fist is waiting Man Up on
I don't know, man. Man Up is like 6'7" in real life. He's just playing in front like he's not that big. But this guy's a giant, man.
I'm just saying, gotta knock him down the side.
So next week, Man Up, I expect you to go out to a toy store and get one of them little tiny doll cups, and you got to come in and drink that like it's a real teacup right next week.
My
you bring that in and start to drink that. Don't say a thing. You just bring in like little tiny like doll things and drink out of them.
Right. I mean, and I always was more I was always more All Japan than New Japan. To me, I felt like New Japan didn't really gain that much of a popularity until they started working with WCW in the early 90s. And then the exposure came here to the United States. We all knew New Japan was always there. But when you have the Road Warriors and they had the NWA International tags, and they came from, they got them from All Japan. I think a lot of that exposure, the Bruiser Brody, that exposure from them guys drew the attention to us.
Exactly. Like,
so,
especially when I think of Guy Jeans going over to Japan, I'm thinking of Hansen, I'm thinking of Brody, I'm thinking of the Funks,
Terry Gordy.
Exactly. All them cats were in the All Japan, correct?
Yeah.
Hugh Scott.
What's up?
Some of those guys even crossed over.
Okay.
With New Japan, you did some bookings with New Japan, but predominantly you saw a lot of those guys wrestled, under the Kings Road. I still got man up laughing. Go Titans or go to Texans.
They said Titans.
Same team, different city. It just that style. I kind of adapted more to Kings Road.
Okay.
That was more what I was a fan of.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
knocking strong style,
okay.
but it was almost a line between MMA and sports entertainment then.
Yeah.
Okay.
As opposed to how they try to make it seem like, Vince McMahon tried to draw that line between the two. It was like that over in Japan way before that. So we got to grow to become fans of the certain styles. I did, and I didn't have any problem with New Japan, but I was always more All Japan fan.
Yeah, and I think it's important historically to also remember that the All Japan's affiliation with the NWA just put more North American eyes on the product. So it wasn't as easy to see New Japan back in the 80s and the early 90s as it is now.
Right.
So like you had to do some serious tape trading to even sort of get your hands on some of that stuff. And really at that time, New Japan was putting a pretty strong focus on the junior heavyweights and their tournament. I mean, that was really what put them on the map was Jushin and that whole junior heavyweight.
Jushin helped carry that company.
Yeah.
And Jushin brought his popularity to North America.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
where that kind of opened up New Japan too. He was one of those gateways. Muda, Chono, those guys opened up the gateway to the United States, helped link New Japan or strengthen the popularity.
Yeah, absolutely.
New Japan was already popular, but those guys, they came over and
And actually, it's an interesting thing. They were actually trading quite a bit of talent at that time too. So, like Vader, when he got his contract to come to Japan from the AWA, he was actually purchased. His contract was actually offered by New Japan, but Inoki traded him over to Baba and let him run in. Reverse that. Baba had his contract. Inoki got him first. Sorry, reverse that. And so that whole Vader gimmick actually grew up out of in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
New Japan,
yeah. So it started over there. So
that's Inoki is the one that bought him the headgear.
Yeah.
The headgear that had the timing and everything in it,
and all of it coming out of it.
Oh yeah, that was
crazy.
Man, I love that gear.
Yeah. But when you think of Vader in Japan, like he had some great matches and he was IWGP champion. He did a lot of great stuff in New Japan. But when you really think about Vader, you think about Stan Hansen, you think about All Japan Pro Wrestling, and you think that stiff style that they worked in that.
It's exactly, and that's a good tie. And Brandon had a good question in the chat. And you mentioned Hansen, you mentioned Vader. Yeah, exactly. Did strong time make you cringe, or was it entertainment back then? I don't know, because it's like you appreciate. I don't know. For me, like I appreciate the hard hitting, but it's like, damn, some of the stuff,
To me, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both because when you're not used to seeing it all the time, you don't get used to it. I don't know. Maybe people look at it different, but to me, when you see it and you hear those chops and those. Hit, but all that crap. I know not hit, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
they threw headbutts.
Yeah. Well, no, but I'm just saying in general though.
Yeah, it's eye opening because when you see someone work that very snuggle style, whatnot.
Yeah, it's different.
You start to question what you see on a weekly basis. Whatnot is like.
It definitely blurred the lines between what you were seeing like in boxing and what you were seeing in like we didn't really have mixed martial arts at that time. It was still developing and growing into what it would become. But like what you were used to seeing in martial arts sparring or what you'd see in boxing, we're starting to see like some real contact.
Right.
Like real contact.
Right.
I kind of followed it over for me personally from Canada. I followed Japanese wrestlers from Stampede Wrestling back over to Japan. That's where I got exposed to them in the first place. And that was already sort of heavily Japanese influence there as well. They were already kind of hard hitting and kind of sort of laying it in pretty tight. Like Dynamite was pretty snug and already in a lot of those wrestlers who had been working in Japan with Tiger Mask and a lot of those other wrestlers. So when you went over to Japan or followed them over to Japan and watched that style, it didn't seem that much of a departure from what you were seeing there.
Exactly.
Well, and a good example of that is Dr. Death and Terry Gordy.
Exactly.
That's great.
When they came to WCW, and especially their matches with the Steiners, and the Steiners is another team that they won over. They went over to Japan. Those guys, they were already stiff as it is.
Exactly.
But I think they loved that style more than wrestling in the United States. Dr. Death, you see, they put them right in a feud with Dr. Death and Gordy. Very similar styles. It was hard hitting, but I think those guys liked those four guys. And then you can say the Road Warriors also went over to Japan, and they really, they was really popping each other pretty good over there. And that's that style that they brought over there. But it made it, I don't want to use the term more believable, but I'm going to. It made it more believable than, the stuff we watched here in the United States.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. One of the guys that really opened me up to watching it and to me made it look really believable hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's Kensuke Sasaki.
Okay.
I think Sasaki was very stiff, and watching him wrestle guys like Rick Rude and Sting that were also making the tours in Japan at the time, in New Japan in the early 90s. We got to see a taste of those matches when Sasaki would make a lot of trips to WCW and do a lot of tours over here in the States, which to me was incredible because Sasaki would lay his stuff in too, and it was very sad watching him lay chops into guys like that and roughhouse them a little bit. That was very eye-opening. And Sasaki was built like a tank too. He wasn't the tallest guy, but he was solid. So he's one of the guys that really opened my eyes to what it was, to what strong style was.
That guy was a beast, man. He was a beast. He was a road warrior. So I mean, come on, man. For him to be put with them, that style, man, there's just that rough, tough, hard-nosed style, man. He brought it. He brought it, man.
Exactly.
Mark Mager brought up a really good point, I think, which is something that really differentiates Japanese wrestling from the North American scene, and I think it's a good thing to sort of touch on. Just the whole ceremonial sort of the way that they treat it, very much like a sport over there, and a lot of that tradition comes out of the sumo traditions and out of a lot of the sort of traditional martial arts traditions that they're sort of blurring the lines between over there. But definitely, I mean, if you watch an old All Japan match, there's about 10 minutes of pre-ceremonial sort of process that you go through. They come in, they bless the belts, streamers are going off in the air. There's the traditional, they're announcing everybody, they're bowing to each other. They actually go over and shake each other's hands before the match begins, oftentimes.
I was gonna say, and you can tell what American company was heavily influenced by Japanese wrestling, and we're talking about Ring of Honor. Was started kind of off that back and bringing that Japanese style to America, which they really did. And they borrowed that, the Code of Honor and the streamers and everything. That was kind of what drew me to Ring of Honor in the 2000s, was getting to see that. And they always had a partnership. They had a partnership with Pro Wrestling Noah in the 2000s, and in the 2010s that blossomed into a relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is how a lot of Americans got to see Tanahashi, got to see Kazuchika Okada, got to see a lot of these guys making trips back and forth, and then we got to start mixing in before Ring of Honor died a couple of years ago, RIP.
Definitely. Good point on that one, Joey. I always have the memory of Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi, and that freaking match. Good Lord, man.
Kobashi is no punk, man.
He is no.
That guy is crazy, man. That's the crazy old man now. I mean, goodness, man. I just
Oh, dear God.
his strikes, man, is him and Takayama.
Yeah.
I love Takayama.
Yeah.
You have to pray for that guy every day, man, because he is struggling, man. He is struggling, man. His health went like when he
had a stroke, right?
No, he's paralyzed.
Paralyzed. That's what it is.
He's paralyzed, and he got hurt in the match.
Damn.
Yeah.
On a sunset flip.
Yeah.
So it just put you in perspective how a simple move like that could hurt you.
And that brings another good point. I think in regards to that style is a little snugger than what we're accustomed to in America and whatnot.
Well, unless you're from the South, just saying.
Yeah.
You damn it, Joe! You had to throw that one in there, didn't you?
I'm just saying wrestling was always a little more. We're talking about the South, man, up, not Texas.
Oh man,
we're talking about the actual.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Somebody must be from Memphis.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I'm gonna pull my strap down and hit you.
You can't get no further south than the border.
We're not talking about the Southwest. We're talking about the dirty South.
But it's like that strong style. Like being wrestling fans is like is I understand we have different styles or whatnot, but it's like it's like is that too much? Where folks are hitting each other so hard, whatnot, that we talk about long-term damage and stuff like that.
There was a lot of literature published after the 90s. There was quite a bit of published about the style in All Japan and the cost of it, the risk to reward sort of in hindsight. Dave Meltzer actually wrote an article that said professional wrestling journalist said Misawa regularly took psychotic bumps, including back suplexes where he would land on his head. Jesus. All Japan would steer away from Odo after Misawa led an exodus to Noah, but Noah kept it up. But Baba sold her stock to Keiji and Noah would continue to practice Odo in its bookings. The element of Odo has been criticized for its negative influence on professional wrestling, and 1990s All Japan has been cited as a cautionary tale in response to legitimately dangerous maneuvers. Mm-hmm. He said the wrestlers were over. They didn't need to do what they did. Like the guys were over in the 90s without doing it. They didn't need to do it. It was unnecessary. But
I mean, they still
it's
do
hella exciting. It's really exciting to watch, though.
Right.
It is.
Did you watch Ospreay and Omega?
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
Well, not just the strong style, because later in the night when we got frontier martial arts with Onita and whatnot, and we saw where that style came over to US and what that has bred as well.
I don't think it's an accident that style grew in that environment, because I think like out of strong style and out of King's Road came shoot style, which was a big thing with the Inokiism and all of that stuff that sort of came out of New Japan, Frontier. And then you also had the hardcore style that sort of grew up in there as well, obviously. And a lot of that came directly out of the stiffness and the violence that was already present just in the basic wrestling. You know, to escalate to that next thing, that was the logical next step from where they already were. So,
well, I tell you what, I think we should definitely, with the time left, we get kind of steer into talking about today's Japanese wrestling, because
do it.
I got some concerns especially watching New Japan and seeing how it's going, and I feel like there's a lack of star building going on there right now. And I mean this all over Japan. I feel like there in any company in Japan, I feel like there's a lack of star building. They just pretty much lost Will Ospreay. We know Will Ospreay has not seen his last match in Japan. That's obviously not going to happen. But, you know, as far as coming up behind that, and as far as, you know, Japanese talent that's actually native to Japan, which is what they have to rely on, just like, you know, North American companies rely on North American talent primarily. We can pretend like WWE is this big worldwide international company, but if you look across the board, the biggest stars are generally American or Canadian, so and Japan's no different. So my thing is looking at it, they tried Shingo Takagi, not a star. They tried Evil, not a star. They just tried Sonata, not a star. Who do they have?
You're right. It seems like they're trying to plug in these guys and hope that they catch lighting in the bottle.
Yeah.
But and I'm a fan of Sonata. Okay. He's a disciple of Keiji Muto, and they try to create something out of him that to me it was lacking. Not saying his championship reign wasn't good, but I was firmly behind him. But as you watch the last 9 months of him being champion, was it as successful as they expected it to be?
No, it was unsuccessful in my opinion. When he left LIJ, he lost all his personality and character.
He lost it, yeah.
And then he looked like an average wrestler out there.
He became
and now
dry.
you see where the belt went back to.
Yep.
The belt went to Tetsuya Naito, who was a star.
Right.
Well, but they put him in. They took him. They essentially took somebody that was counter authority, counter culture, and they put him in a suit. And and I mean, they kind of cut his feet out from underneath him. I mean, he didn't really have a chance with that, honestly. The guy's talented.
They had him cut his hair. They had him cut his beard. They tried to reinvent the wheel with him, and it to me I didn't like that.
Yeah.
A question to my Japan aficionados. With the lack of star power that is being said that they don't have right now, would this dictate a more bringing in the guys genes to assist with that, or it's like where do they go with that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean that's a hard question to answer because you do want your native talent to basically carry that company.
Right.
But bringing somebody else in could turn your fan base, can turn the other talent away from the company.
I think the way that Japan books is you have to kind of look at that both from a historical and contemporary perspective. What I mean by that is that it's always been, even like since the days when Ridoko-san started booking, like he immediately realized, because he was actually, I believe, if I'm not wrong, he was actually Korean, came in as a sumo wrestler and established himself as a Japanese citizen. He understood the way that the Japanese people perceive foreigners. Okay. And he understood, and he played to it. He booked that way. Mm-hmm. And Inoki and Baba never really forgot that either. Mm-hmm. The Gaijin wrestlers will always be the outsider coming in and taking from the Japanese. Mm-hmm. And the Japanese will always be in those promotions, will always be the heroes and the
gotcha.
And the hometown guy or the hometown gal. That's always going to be the way it's booked. And having said all that, Gaijins come and go all the time. Like that's been like, you got a Devitt, he leaves. You get an AJ, he leaves. You get an Omega, he leaves. You get a Jay White, he leaves. You build up now. Like the reason I asked that because when I went the time when I was most invested in Japan, well, not even Japanese, but more New Japan was Bullet Club. When it was Omega, when it was the Bucks, it was and all those cats and they were winning titles and all that stuff. Bullet Club, and that's when I got into it, whatnot, and that's when I actually tuned in and watched Wrestle Kingdom at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and to see what's going on. So that's why I brought that out here, whatnot. So yeah.
I will say something that may be an unpopular opinion right now. I actually like what they're doing with David Finley.
Okay.
I like the way he's got himself in tremendous shape. He looks a lot better. I mean, that's a big part of it right there. I actually like it. I was kind of pooping on it at first, but I kind of like what they're doing with him now. I like the build up, and honestly, when the time period you're referring to, Cedric, whenever Kenny Omega was at the helm of Bullet Club, is when I started changing the channel.
Okay,
because he came out there in the frilly.
If you look back at Jay White's trajectory, I mean, he's lost some shine since he's been in AEW. But before he jumped over, he was one of the hotter agents in the world when his contract was coming up. When he came into Bullet Club, he hadn't been on TV. He was over at Ring of Honor. He was traveling and doing a lot of stuff. They brought him back in. They gave him that Switchblade character. They had the IC belt on him within 2 months. And then they had him in Bullet Club, and everybody was like, or 2 or 3 months.
It was the U.S. belt.
Or U.S. belt, sorry, U.S. belt. Yeah. And they had a belt on him, and they had him in Bullet Club within 2 or 3 months. And then within a couple of months after that, he was running it. And everybody was saying too much too soon. You know, this guy sucks because he's pales in comparison to Omega at that time for a lot of fans. And Omega at the time when he came in paled in comparison to AJ. And nobody could settle on him either. And before AJ came in, everybody was a little upset because he couldn't really fit Devitt's shoes at that time. And so it's been sort of an ongoing thing. That's what they do. They take mid-card people, they take lower mid-card people, and they build them into these.
They build them, yeah.
They build them into these people. And I can't say they're not good at it. They're really good at it with the Gaijin wrestlers for sure. But I don't see how they're building. The way they're building him right now is very similar to how they built Jay White.
Yeah,
I think he's got bigger upside than Jay White, though. I think he's a better promo, a better talker. In all honesty, I think Jay White's promos just get out of control after a while, and you can't really follow him anymore. From what I've seen from David Finley, the way he's talking and the way he's delivering these promos, I don't know who's teaching him. But they've done a tremendous job. Like, to me, he's moving into that, and he's in a good spot right now.
One of the best trainers in the world just happens to be his father. So, you know.
Yeah, his father's not a good promo though.
No, but maybe not a great promo, but he's certainly one of the better technicians in the world. So you know, he's got a tremendous head start. So.
Who was that? Somebody was saying that whenever I saw an interview recently where somebody was saying that when they were in WWE. That Finley had mentioned, you know, my son's going to be getting, and talking about David, not his youngest son that's gotten in now, but his son was going to be breaking into the business. And they were like, oh, are you going to bring him down here to the Performance Center? And he was like, hell no. He's like, I want him to learn to do it the right way. So he went to the New Japan Dojo.
There you go. Caleb was just saying Jay White first came in. He was in Chaos. That was the angle where he flipped on them and went to Bullet Club. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was in Chaos for a while first with Okada, but he was secretly, you know, they were billing it like he was ready to stab him in the back.
Well, he stabbed Bullet Club in the back first.
Correct. Omega offered him the spot.
Right. He came in, had the whole T-shirt and everything. Turned on Omega, went Chaos, and then turned on Chaos, and then went back into Bullet Club.
Bullet Club,
right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think we covered
he
that.
Was welcomed into Bullet Club by the Tongans when Omega was on his way out.
Right. Yeah, and they teased it that he was going to basically take over at that point, but that didn't happen, and they built that feud, and that's how he got the U.S. title.
Yeah.
From Omega.
Yeah. I think we covered it in our Bullet Club episode. It's in the YouTube archives. You guys want to check that out. We got about 10 minutes left in this thing. One of the big news coming out of the new year, Ben, was like the collaboration that they're talking about doing between all the promotions.
I saw that, and I read it to that, and that is big. I mean. It's happened before, but not at this magnitude.
Right.
And it didn't include the minor promotions in the past, and it does now. So
yeah, I read that and I was like, wow. I mean,
quick question for you though: how do you think it's going to work with all these companies joining together with so many companies? because a lot of times it's difficult for 2 or 3 companies to join, let alone 5, 6, 7 companies. You know what I mean?
In the United States, man, I'm going to throw that because a lot of those companies do secretly collab with each other over in Japan.
Okay.
They just brought it out in the open.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do that here in the United States, of course. You couldn't. You couldn't say we're going to have an AEW. We're going to have an AEW, NWA, WWE Super Show. They're not going to do that because
you might. Everybody else but WWE might. That's the big issue.
That would be more likely. Honestly,
but I wanted to actually, what Ben's going to say, I don't want me to cut him off, but when you think about the Dragon's Gate and you think about all the collaboration that's happening, actually the only company that's actually collaborating is New Japan. New Japan's going to everywhere. New Japan's going to AAA. New Japan's going to AEW. New Japan's going to Impact. TNA. They're the ones that are actually sharing talent with everybody and moving around. The other companies are just sort of standing and play and happy to accept their people. So
it helps to boost them, and that's great of New Japan to do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But that's an illusion that everybody's sharing talent over here in North America. That's not really happening.
In AEW, to their credit, they tried it. They tried it with AAA and they had their partnership with TNA, Impact, whichever you want to call them this week. They had, they shared their shows with them, and even allowed their talent to wrestle on all these other, with these other promotions. But that's a great thing that New Japan is doing.
Well, in 2023, we saw a lot of interacting between New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah. We saw Noah stars in the G1. We saw Noah stars in the Best of Super Juniors. We saw some definitely. We saw Will Ospreay and Tomohiro Ishii and a lot of New Japan wrestlers compete at Pro Wrestling Noah in 2023. So we already saw the seeds for this planted. And we saw that co-show that they had after Wrestle Kingdom last year that Noah and New Japan put on too, where you had a clash of a lot of champions from New Japan and Pro Wrestling Noah too. So, and the interesting thing is TNA really, or Impact rather, if in 2023 rather kept a really strong bond with New Japan and had stars going over there. You saw the Motor City Machine Guns and Josh Alexander over there recently. And so and things are changing too. We might see a stop to AAA and AEW doing business now that AEW and TNA are in a strong LinkedIn partnership going forward. So this is going to, but we also saw CMLL start doing business with AEW.
Yes.
So it's going to get interesting.
And TNA just announced a partnership, a reestablished partnership with AAA. So
and I think it's going to be more exclusive.
Yeah. And what's interesting for me with the group over in Japan is that because New Japan Pro Wrestling is always so proactively open to the idea of sharing talent and working in multiple promotions, co-promoting, there's a very good chance that you're going to start to see some of those other promotions at Japan jump on that bandwagon with New Japan and share their talent. So you may see more wrestlers from Noah over in the US market. You may see more wrestlers from All Japan or from DDT or from Dragon Gate. That may also open up that market for them as well. So
absolutely. What's up there, Hugh? That's another Kane fan right there.
Yeah, whatever.
Some people online too were speculating, WWE having some sort of partnership with All Japan because Regal's son went over there and had a couple matches.
Yeah.
First, and then they were like, maybe New Japan will work with WWE, and I was like, that'll never happen, in my opinion, because straight up, even if WWE was open to it, the very fact that they only want kind of NXT to work with international promotions, I don't think New Japan would think, what would that benefit New Japan Pro Wrestling to get NXT people over to New Japan? It wouldn't benefit New Japan at all because they're not stars. And so if the real talent exchange would be like somebody from, New Japan coming over and wrestling in WWE, and then Seth Rollins or somebody that's a star in the United States going over and wrestling a match in New Japan, and not just, Charlie Dempsey or somebody nobody's, let's be honest, never even really heard of.
Right.
It's not going to benefit a company like New Japan. I don't think they would ever go for that.
Right.
But we all right. So 2024, brand new year. Lot of moving pieces and whatnot. Putting you aficionados to on the spot real quick as we wrap this up. What is the outlook you all see for Japanese wrestling in 2024? What does that look like to you?
Business is down right now for sure. Like in terms of gates in Japan, it's historically at a bit of a low. Started sliding in 2021, and it's been sliding. Historically, when Japan's gates go down, they travel. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna see a lot more co-promoting happening, especially with New Japan and the group being maybe open to that idea. So I think you're going to see, not in WWE, but I think you're going to see more of the same of what we've been seeing with AEW and TNA Impact. You're going to see a lot more Japanese stars coming over here and trying to get established so they can bring that rub with them back over to Japan and sort of try to get the gates back up again. I think you're going to see a lot of mega promotion, sort of co-promoting events over there. I think you're going to see multiple promotions competing under one in pay-per-views. I think you're going to see that. I think for sure. That's where I think it's going.
Okay. Ben, you concur with that, or?
Yeah. I mean, it basically it's setting the stage of New Japan building this, this relationship with these different promotions, but they're ultimately going to have to follow their lead, and go from there. And hopefully it strengthens, like Jason was saying, it strengthens the gate and the attendance and the profits. That's because the bottom line is it's going to be about money.
Sure.
But,
and you may see a few of those smaller companies get absorbed.
Right.
Like that may happen. Like that's happened historically in the past as well, where companies have started as co-promotions and ended up just sort of, merging. Right. Essentially. Yeah. Like part of the reason New Japan has so many bloody titles is because they've absorbed 2 or 3 other promotions in the process.
Exactly. Joy,
makes sense.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see some interesting stuff happening in the G1 this year, amongst other things. Probably by next Wrestle Kingdom, we may see some other championships from. We might see a Triple Crown world title match at Wrestle Kingdom, or a GHC heavyweight title match at Wrestle Kingdom, and I think that could be really good. I definitely think they're going to continue to push their presence in the States. New Japan will, which you're seeing. You just saw Okada at the tapings for TNA. You're seeing, and one thing TNA and New Japan are both offering together is like these dual contracts. AEW's not even doing that. TNA is offering you to be American contracted to them, like Kushida, Nick Nemeth, and some of these other guys now, and then signed to New Japan over there. Because the good thing about TNA is when you work for them, you're only really working, a handful of dates a month, including the pay-per-view.
Right.
So you have a lot of time to make these trips to Japan and do some spots over there. Kushida lives in the States now, so his primary is TNA, but he's gonna still make he signed a dual contract with New Japan too to continue working for them. So I would expect to see Kushida get back in the mix in New Japan in that IWGP junior heavyweight title scene and kind of bring that popularity back up, because the junior heavyweight division is kind of falling down, and Kushida's got a lot of star power, to bring back to that if he makes more trips over there, in my opinion.
Absolutely. All right. Good take, guys. We're at the top of the hour. Awesome show, guys. We appreciate everybody's input. We appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm gonna go to our special guest for the evening, Ben Grandpa Walker. We thank you for joining us once again, sharing your insights, sharing your knowledge. Absolutely. you got a lot of things on your plate. If you want to go ahead and share that with you, how folks can follow along with what you're doing, what shows you on, something like that.
Well, currently I am one of the hosts or co-hosts on Spanning the Globe with Mark Maggart, Richard Ward, Andy Bolger, Lane Crooks. Appreciate you guys for the support you always bring to the show, the energy you bring to the show, the interaction you bring to the show. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on the show. This is another excellent podcast. You guys got to watch, like, and subscribe up there in the YouTube. Check better be in the mail. Thank you guys.
We'll send man up down the street to stuff. We'll send man up down the street to
Come on.
It should only take him about 2 steps if his
right. He could throw a snowball from his house to mine. But yeah, thank you guys once again for having me on. Very, very happy. Check us out if you're not a member of my group, Championship Belt Brothers. It's not my group, but I'm an admin over in that group. And we very, 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 try to keep it drama free, sucker free, and always leave it better than you found it.
Outstanding. Man up, we had a big YouTube presence on the show tonight.
Oh yeah, we did, and I appreciate everybody, for joining us on YouTube. If y'all want to keep seeing everything that we do here on YouTube and more, we do more than these 1-hour shows. Excuse me, we do belt unboxing, we do belt reviews, we do live events. I mean, we do anything when it's pertaining to wrestling. That's why we call Bells and Belts and everything in between. So if you want to see everything we do, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit all notifications. So every time we do something, you will see it. Joey, what else can they do?
Stop whatever you're doing right now. I don't care if you got food in your mouth. Spit it out and go subscribe. And join the Facebook group, Bells and Belts. Go ahead and join up right now. Stop whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing. I know what you're doing too, but stop it. Go join the Facebook group right now.
Yeah, you too, you freak. Put that down and go subscribe.
Before we continue, hold on. Before we continue, we almost at 500. So remember, once we get to 500, we are going to have a giveaway. Once we get to 1,000, we'll have another giveaway. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, awesome. And
but hang on a sec. Nesha wants to just remind us of something.
Oh yeah. Yep. Next week, Man Up is going to sing happy birthday to Nesha. So
I don't know if that's going to get us views or cost us views, but
hey, we're still working on the Marilyn Monroe wig for that. So y'all all stay tuned for that. You saw some awesome graphics and awesome insight during the show. JD does a lot of that awesome stuff over at his group, right, JD?
Yeah, come check us out. It's Champions Belt Club. We have daily trivia, daily history. We do news, current news, and we have a good time over there to talk a lot about belts, talk a lot about wrestling, and we have a Friday fantasy poll going on right now where we are going through a tournament with the top 12 greatest TNA world champions of your choice, and I'd love to know what you guys think about that. So come help us vote.
Outstanding. A lot of great areas where you all can support, liking, subscribing, joining. It doesn't cost a thing, and you definitely be helping us out. We next week we're gonna have another guest come on the show. We're gonna have Javier Cortez, and he's gonna show his collection to the masses. So we're definitely looking forward to that next week. So we definitely want you all to join in on the fun with that. Ben, thanks again for joining us. My tag team partners. Let's do this again next week. Yes,
let's do it.
Awesome. So for Grandpa, for Man Up, JD, and Joey, I'm your boy Cedric D, and we will see you guys here next week here on Bells and Belts.
Yeah.